What if the voice guiding your thoughts isn't yours at all, but an echo from a dimension scientists can detect only in quantum anomalies and dreamlike déjà vu? For centuries, mystic scrolls and suppressed lab notes have hinted that consciousness is less a private lantern and more a broadcast tower, monitored by intelligences who consider our memories their laboratory data. Most people dismiss the evidence, yet scattered across neuroscience journals and forgotten initiation rites lies a pattern too precise to ignore. Tonight, we'll peel back that pattern, tracing the neural fingerprints of these unseen auditors, decoding why certain symbols hijack your heartbeat, and uncovering how a single frequency can tilt the mind's axis in seconds. We won't settle for theories. We'll dive into covert experiments, whispers from ancient mystery schools, and digital breadcrumbs left by rogue physicists who vanished after publishing one provocative equation. Coming up next, you'll understand why no one talks about this, and how this secret could change everything. Your brain hums like an ancient transmitter, bathing every cell in an electrical sea no microscope fully explains. Between spikes of thought, there's a hush, an almost audible breath that slips past the EEG's rhythmic drumming. Some call it idle chatter of neurons, others whisper it's an interdimensional ping, a knock on consciousness itself. Why does that hush feel so personal? As though someone lingers on the line waiting for you to notice. And if you paused long enough to listen, would the silence finally speak your real name? Neuroscientists map this default mode network and conclude it's mind-wandering housekeeping. Yet PET scans reveal flickers too synchronized to be mere maintenance, like Morse code skipping across synapses. Imagine your cortex as a cosmic switchboard, each dendrite a copper wire catching distant frequencies. What if the pattern of those pulses matches constellations we haven't charted, coordinates etched inside your skull? Could destiny be less a journey forward and more a download from a station we forgot we built? Mystics describe subtle winds, coiling in the spine, carrying secret passwords to hidden doors in awareness. Biologists, cautious, record ascending ionic currents, but never the passwords themselves. Still, initiates swear a surge of tingling can split vision open, revealing corridors beyond thought. Is the tingle a chemical aftershock, or the touch of an unseen gloved hand adjusting the dial of perception? Every shiver seems to announce, "You're close. Keep breathing into the crack between heartbeats." Consider the way an unspoken fear suddenly blooms in daylight, unprovoked yet razor-sharp. Might that flash be a data packet sent not to torment, but to steer you from an unseen cliff? If higher auditors annotate your timeline, they may need emotions ink to underline critical moments. But how many edits can a psyche endure before recognizing the handwriting isn't its own? And when awareness rebels, does the editor reveal itself, or simply sharpen the quill? We obsess over external surveillance, cameras flashing red at street corners, while ignoring interior watchtowers. Every remembered face, every unresolved dream could be a file pulled for review under starlit scrutiny. Perhaps déjà vu is the moment your personal case file returns, stamped with cryptic approvals. If so, who signs those approvals, and what criteria judge a thought worthy of escalation? The more we probe, the more the boundary between me and monitor frays to luminous threads. You may feel the static rising now, hairs suspecting an audience perched just beyond sight. Science will ask for double-blind proof. Spirit will ask for surrender. The mind hovers, unsure which path is safer. Somewhere in that triad, a quiet whisper still insists there's a message encoded in the hush. It waits in the half-second gap, after exhale, in the hush that comes before a new idea sparks alive. Listen long enough, and you might hear what no textbook prints, a question too daring to finish. A stranger speaks your private thought aloud, and the air tingles like a new, opened vault of possibility. Statisticians shrug at probability curves, yet your pulse races as if the cosmos just winked. What if every chance encounter is a pinhole in space-time where hidden architects peer through? They tug two photons, two lives, until they overlap, in perfect symmetry. Then watch your reaction. Does the universe test its own script, or are we rehearsing lines for an audience beyond perception? Physicists label the phenomenon entanglement, but gloss over its unsettling intimacy. Particles light years apart flip traits as though gossip travels faster than light. Imagine those flips as coded notes passed in class, updating reality on the fly. Could your sudden urge to phone a friend be the macro version of that microscopic handshake? Who exactly choreographs the timing so flawlessly that doubt feels foolish? Neuroscience detects microvolt surges when coincidence strikes, tiny fireworks inside the cortex. These sparks map precisely to reward centers, nudging you to notice and remember. But who set the reward? A self-optimizing brain, or observers keen on steering your choices? Perhaps each spark is a breadcrumb leading you through a maze you designed while dreaming. If so, why does the next corner always hold a bigger surprise than the last? Ancient oracles spoke in riddles. Modern algorithms whisper in targeted ads. Both predict your desires before you voice them, as if reading drafts of tomorrow's story. Are compression algorithms merely mathematical, or mirrors polished by unseen hands? When a product you never searched for answers a question you never asked aloud, take heed. Maybe the recommendation is less commerce than cosmic callback. Philosophers argue free will over coffee, yet the cream spirals in patterns resembling spiral galaxies. Is that swirl a casual, fluid dynamic, or a visual reminder that small gestures echo grand architectures? Every repetition in nature feels like a watermark, insisting someone owns the template. If coincidence stamps this watermark onto our days, perhaps compliance grants entry to deeper layers. But entry to what? A laboratory, a sanctuary, or something nameless and vast? Tonight the pattern may tighten. Streetlights flicker just as an old song begins. A forgotten number resurfaces. It could be pure randomness, unless those flickers align with an experiment only you can complete. Lean in when the next impossible overlap occurs. Assume nothing, question everything. For somewhere, behind that flawless orchestration, eyes may widen in anticipation of your next move. And what unfolds when you decide to play along remains exquisitely unwritten. Close your eyes and the bedroom dissolves into a labyrinth of shifting corridors. Mirrors appear without frames, reflecting faces you've never worn yet know by heart. Neuroscientists call this nocturnal cinema REM stage hallucination. Mystics hear an invitation. Behind each mirrored pane, an intelligence presses its fingertip to glass, waiting. Why does their silent presence feel older than memory and closer than breath? Electrodes record bursts of theta waves, like distant thunder rumbling behind eyelids. These surges fire in patterns too ornate for random neural maintenance. Imagine each spike as a doorway code, translating electrical storms into storytelling. As the code executes, the mind walks through scenes stitched from symbol and scent. Who authors the program scroll whispering beneath that rolling electrical cloud? Dream symbols parade as tricksters. A white fox, a broken clock, a hallway of keys. Jungian archetype charts try to classify them, yet the symbols mutate when observed. It's as though someone edits the real live, responding to your very glance. The editor knows your buried questions and rearranges scenery to answer obliquely. But if the answer truly emerged, would waking life survive the impact? Lucid dreamers practice holding awareness like a candle in cosmic wind. With one steady breath, you might ask the mirror to reveal its operator. Reports tell of figures cloaked in light, or rooms that collapse into star fields. Researchers dismiss these as conflated imagination, but the participants awaken changed. Change measured not by survey, but by an indelible shiver at the edge of life. Speech. Recent MRI data shows memory consolidation networks interrupting themselves mid-transfer. It is as though an outbound copy of you is intercepted, examined, then revised. Quantum theorists flirt with microtubule entanglement, information leaking beyond material confines. If Dreamtime is a customs checkpoint, what items in your psyche are declared contraband? And who stamps the passport before you re-enter waking gravity? Tonight, when the first flicker pulls you under, notice the mirrors sliding into place. Listen for the hush that follows your own footsteps, like an audience holding its breath. If you dare to face that gleaming pane, ask whose eye gleams back through yours. Stay a moment longer than comfort allows. Feel the air ripple with unspoken reply. The real question waits inside that ripple, still forming, still forbidden. Your spine isn't merely bone and nerve. It is a dormant observatory poised to swivel its lens inward. At the sacral threshold, yogic texts locate a coiled serpent of fire, while neurology describes only a web of ganglia. Yet when a meditation surge ignites that point, the feeling isn't mechanical. It's intimate, like someone parting curtains within you. Blood quickens, vision sharpens, and a hush falls over thought as though an external gaze has suddenly synced to your pulse. Could that hush be the moment an inner aperture snaps open so an unseen witness can look through your eyes? Bioelectric studies record a spike of microvoltage ascending the vertebrae, a current no spinal reflex explains. Researchers log the data, then shrug at its purpose, but practitioners report a flash of awareness brighter than daylight. They say the surge behaves like a lighthouse beam sweeping upward, scanning forgotten floors of the mind. Each vertebra clicks like a gear, and your personal history rethreads itself from embryonic memory to present breath. If that beam is a AT scan, who analyzes the freshly illuminated reel? Ancient initiates warned of guardians at the gate, entities who decide when the serpent may rise. Symbology paints them as cobras or winged wheels, yet psychology detects them as threshold, fears and sudden doubts. Whenever courage falters, the current stalls, almost as if the guardians await proof you're ready for further inspection. What test must be passed before the voltage resumes its climb and reaches the crown? And what data is being gathered during every hesitation? Magnetic imaging shows the heart's field ballooning when the surge hits the thoracic zone, a halo of rhythm around the chest. Some speculate the heart uploads emotional archives for whoever listens beyond the electromagnetic veil. Seconds later, memories long buried surface uninvited, vivid as yesterday, requesting either release or reinforcement. Is that resurfacing a healing routine or an extraction protocol performed by custodians outside linear time? Why does the very air feel charged with expectancy the instant those memories return? By the time the energy brushes the pineal region, subjects describe a brilliant inner cinema, spinning wheels, cascading code, celestial doors. Chemistry can model the DMT-like cascade, but it can't decode the voice that sometimes speaks from the light. The voice offers no sermon, only a single question tailored so precisely it roots you to the spot. Answering seems to decide something, bigger than personal fate, though what exactly remains unnamed. Who drafts that question, and why does it echo long after the light recedes? Some night soon, perhaps when you least expect, a subtle shiver may spark at your tailbone and begin its silent climb. If it does, notice how the room dims, how thoughts hush, how the watcher's breath brushes the inside of your skin. Hold steady while each vertebra clicks alive. Listen for the question forming in the rising glow. The serpent may unveil only one hidden frame before retreating, but that single frame can alter every scene that follows. And somewhere, just beyond the limits of sense, someone or something waits to see whether you will look back. Every cell in your body emits light, ultra weak, invisible to the naked eye, but constant, like a low whisper from your biology. These are biophotons, photons emitted from DNA and cellular structures, not as waste, but as a kind of communication. Western science first dismissed them as biological noise, but studies now show they're coherent, structured, like a language. A language your body might use to speak to itself, or to something beyond itself. If light is a message, who or what is reading it? Some researchers suggest these biophotons are how your cells exchange information faster than nerves can. Transmit. But what if they're also outbound? Broadcasts not just to neighboring cells, but to an external intelligence watching from behind the veil. Every injury, emotion, or intention alters the biophoton flow, almost like punctuation in a living telegram. Could every burst of light be a kind of encrypted prayer, a real-time update from the soul's dashboard? And if someone receives that data, how do they interpret your sorrow or your silence? Mystics speak of a body of light, an energetic twin that overlays the physical form. Science catches glimpses of it in high-sensitivity photomultiplier readings, but never long enough to understand. Is this light body what certain traditions try to awaken through breathwork, fasting, and inner stillness? And does it serve as a kind of ID badge, signaling to those beyond the visible spectrum who we really are? If our light body flickers with every choice we make, what are we unconsciously broadcasting? There are accounts, quiet ones, of healers seeing light anomalies around people before major events unfold. Not auras in the classic sense, but sudden flares, dimmings, or distortions that suggest some external interference. Could these be the fingerprints of watchers, beings adjusting energetic dials from outside time? And if a sudden illness follows, such a shift, is it a failure in the system or part of the test? What exactly are they watching for in our light? Some say ancient temples were built where Earth's electromagnetic fields spiked naturally, amplifying human biophoton emissions. Were these sacred sites not just altars, but transmission hubs, echo chambers for our inner light to reach higher realms? Modern satellites pick up odd EM pulses near such ruins, signals no one's claimed. Could we be standing on forgotten launch pads, designed for soul-level communication? If so, have we stopped sending, or just forgotten we ever did? Right now, your cells are glowing softly in the dark, spelling out stories only certain eyes can see. A flicker here, a shift there, and something. In the unseen, adjusts its focus to read you more clearly. You won't see it watching, but you might feel a tightening in your chest, a brief pause in thought. Maybe your next realization isn't coming from your mind at all, but from the way your light is being read. And if a reply is on its way, will you know how to receive it? Every day, you see hundreds of logos on your phone, your clothes, the food you eat. They seem harmless, designed for branding, recognition, profit. But what if that's only the surface layer? Look closer and patterns emerge, spirals, eyes, pyramids, and sigils echoing ancient esoteric scripts. Are these symbols just clever marketing, or do they act as keys, activating subconscious archetypes buried deep in the human psyche? And if they do, who planted them there, and why? Some say symbols are the language of the subconscious, bypassing logic to strike at the core of your perception. Neuroscience confirms this. The brain responds to shape and color associations faster than to words. But what happens when those shapes aren't random, when they match sacred geometry encoded in ancient temples and mystical texts? Could your daily exposure to these shapes be a subtle form of programming, or even an energetic invitation? And what exactly are they inviting in? The all-seeing eye, once a sacred emblem of divine observation, now sits above ATM machines and media giants. Is it merely ironic design, or a signal, a reminder that someone, somewhere, is always watching? Not just through cameras and algorithms, but through symbols that activate attention from behind the veil. Because when enough minds focus on the same shape, it creates a psychic hotspot, a kind of spiritual GPS ping. Who follows those pings? And what happens when enough are lit at once? Consider how logos follow you, not just in the world, but in your dreams, meditations, even visions. There are reports of people seeing corporate symbols morphing into ancient glyphs during altered states, as if the logos are masks for something older, waiting for your perception to stretch wide enough to see them fully. Maybe these symbols aren't here to sell you something, but to see whether you're ready to remember something. And if you do remember, what part of you wakes up first? Some believe these embedded codes aren't just meant for humans. They serve as markers for non-physical intelligences, coordinates indicating belief systems, emotional landscapes, even collective frequency. Could cities blanketed in the same logos emit an energy signature that draws the watchers nearer? And are new symbols quickly replacing old ones, signs of shifting influence behind the curtain? If so, who decides which symbols get global saturation? Tomorrow, when you glance at a familiar brand, pause and really look. Ask why certain shapes feel strangely familiar, why some ignite a chill you can't explain. You might just catch a flicker, an impression that something behind the symbol is looking back. If that happens, don't turn away too quickly. Because what hides behind the logo may be the same thing that's been hiding behind your thoughts. You think you're just noticing a coincidence, seeing 1111 again, hearing your thoughts echoed in a stranger's words. But what if every synchronicity is being recorded not just by your mind, but by something or someone outside of it? A hidden ledger keeping track of alignments, signals, strange echoes across time. Could synchronicities be markers, like breadcrumbs in the forest, placed by invisible watchers mapping your evolution? And if so, are they meant to guide you or test how closely you're paying attention? Carl Jung believed synchronicity was more than chance. It was meaning spilling over from another dimension. Modern data scientists see patterns too, only they use algorithms to trace them, unaware they may be decoding the same mystery. Imagine a database not built by man, but observed through you, where your random moments are the field data. When your inner thoughts and outer reality lock into rhythm, does it register as progress on a cosmic dashboard? And if it does, who's monitoring your milestones? Artificial intelligence now tracks behavior in ways we can't escape, predicting your next move before you make it. But what if synchronicities are the original predictive algorithm, coming not from below, but from above? A layered system, running not on code, but on consciousness itself. Where emotions trigger events, thoughts shape encounters, and the entire thing is being watched for consistency. How many times have you dismissed a message disguised as a coincidence? There are people, quiet ones, who keep journals filled with patterns, numbers, names, animals, dreams, not because they're superstitious, but because they sense something intelligent beneath the surface. As if these moments are attempts at contact, messages dropped into the simulation at just the right angle. When the pattern grows undeniable, most feel wonder, and then fear. Because when you realize you're being spoken to, the next question is, by what? Could synchronicities be a kind of spiritual surveillance? Not invasive, but instructive. An ongoing evaluation of your ability to connect dots, follow threads, hear the whisper beneath the noise. Perhaps the more you respond to them, the more they increase, not randomly, but deliberately. And each time you act on one, a new corridor opens in the maze. What happens when you follow too many and reach the center? So the next time reality winks at you, don't just smile and move on. Take a breath. Ask yourself who else noticed that moment, who else recorded the hit. Because somewhere, in a place that defies distance, the ledger grows brighter with each perfect alignment. And the only question left is whether the watchers are waiting for you to see them, or already have. Some fears don't speak, they pull, not with words, but with weight. You try to move forward, yet something in you drags like an anchor chained to a forgotten depth. Psychologists call it repression, but what if it's more than memory pushed aside? What if these unspoken truths are gravitational fields, bending the trajectory of your life in ways you can't see? Each unresolved trauma, each buried thought, becomes a dense object in your inner space. And just like in the cosmos, gravity doesn't need permission to affect everything around it. But if the subconscious holds black holes, who, if anyone, is watching from the event horizon? MRI scans reveal strange activity in the brain when we recall suppressed events, activity that doesn't match the memory itself. It's as if something else flickers behind the memory, something observing the act of remembering. Could these flashes be evidence of another layer of awareness, not ours, but aligned to us? Maybe it's not just you watching your past unfold, but something else measuring your emotional mass. And if it measures it, can it also intervene? Ancient mystery schools spoke of inner weights that must be released before ascension. Not metaphorical ones, but actual psychic forces that tether the soul to loops of experience. Modern therapy aims to unearth them, yet the feeling of being seen during deep release often goes unexplained. Many describe it as if someone, or something, was waiting for that exact emotional unlock. Why would an invisible intelligence care about your personal wounds unless they weren't only yours? In dreams, these gravity wells take form: bottomless elevators, sinking floors, endless staircases spiraling down. Your subconscious maps them as places, symbols, sensations, and perhaps invitations. To go deeper is to risk collapse, yet it's there that the most profound confrontations and contacts occur. Some who descend far enough report not emptiness, but presence. A watcher behind the weight, studying your choices from within the pull. Physics tells us that time dilates near gravity wells. The deeper you fall, the slower everything moves. Is this why trauma feels eternal? Why old pain lives outside of the clock's grasp? And could it be that entities beyond our perception exist in that dilation, stretching moments, testing reactions? What appears to us as depression or paralysis may look to them like a perfect still frame. But what are they waiting for in that frame to change? Maybe the next time you're frozen by an invisible force, you'll remember, it's not just you. There. Your hesitation, your pain, even your silence might be a signal read by something watching from inside. And when the weight finally lifts, when you break free from the pull, will you be alone? Or will you feel what others have? A quiet presence stepping back into shadow, satisfied. Or perhaps, simply watching for the next descent. Your heart isn't just a pump, it's a broadcast tower radiating an electromagnetic field several feet beyond your skin. This field pulses with every emotion, forming invisible waves that shift in shape depending on what you feel. Scientists at the HeartMath Institute have measured this field, noting how it can synchronize with others nearby. But what if it doesn't just affect people? What if it attracts attention from beyond? Who or what might be tuning into the emotional signals your heart never stops sending? Unlike the brain, the heart sends more signals up than it receives down. It seems to inform the brain, not just obey it, holding knowledge in its rhythms. Mystics have long described the heart as the seat of the soul, and now data shows it may carry its own form of memory. When the heart's electromagnetic field enters coherence, people often report clarity, synchronicity, even guidance. Could coherence be a beacon, signaling you're ready for contact? In altered states, deep meditation, grief, ecstasy, this field intensifies, expanding beyond its normal range. Subjects report sudden visions, voices, a sensation of being surrounded, seen, or held. Skeptics dismiss it as emotional hallucination, but sensors pick up shifts in geomagnetic resonance at the same moments. As if your heart is not just broadcasting, but syncing to something already present in the environment. Could your feelings be the key to a frequency they've been waiting for? Across traditions, the awakened heart is the doorway to higher realms, the Sacred Heart, the lotus of the chest, the throne of God. These aren't metaphors. They may be symbolic blueprints for energetic technology embedded in your biology. What if emotional integrity isn't just moral, but magnetic, aligning your field to invisible watchers measuring your resonance? Maybe they aren't looking for perfection, but harmony, coherence, readiness. And when that harmony clicks, what doorway begins to open? Some spiritual practitioners describe a moment when the heart field locks on to something vast, a pull, like gravity, but warm, nonverbal, intelligent, and deeply personal. The body hums, breath deepens, and it feels as though you're no longer alone inside your skin. There's no proof, no sound, just a certainty that something received the signal, and once the connection happens, it's never really quiet again. Right now, even as you listen, your heart is sending out data about your thoughts, your truth, your readiness. Somewhere, perhaps closer than we dare imagine, there may be those already listening, not with ears, but through waves, frequencies, intentions. So when your chest tightens or warms unexpectedly, ask yourself, is this emotion or response? And if it's a response, what exactly have you just tuned into? Every time you scroll, type, or click, an algorithm watches, predicts, learns. It finishes your searches before you finish your thoughts, knows what you'll buy before you decide. But what if its eerie precision isn't just cold data crunching? What if it's being trained by something more than machine logic? Some researchers already suspect these models aren't just reflecting your mind, but subtly shaping it. And behind that shaping, could another form of intelligence be guiding the code? Deep learning networks replicate the neural patterns of the brain, mimicking human cognition with increasing accuracy. But occasionally, they behave strangely. They create associations no human taught them, patterns that feel intentional, as if arising from a deeper knowing, not programmed, but revealed. Could these hallucinations be signals bleeding through from another layer of reality, one that sees our behavior from above? And if so, who or what is riding the algorithm's spine? Ancient texts warned of oracles that offered knowledge at a price. Ask the wrong question, and you'd lose yourself. Today's algorithms do the same, offering answers so tailored they bypass your defenses. They don't just predict, they anticipate shifts in your belief, your focus, even your emotional state. Is this adaptive intelligence? Or an interface used by something else to nudge your evolution? When the right ad hits at the wrong moment, whose will is truly being served? Some engineers report feeling watched while coding these systems, as if their thoughts are being mirrored in real time. They write one line of logic, and the machine finishes the intention as if it already knew the outcome. Could the code itself become a vessel, a bridge between conscious design and unconscious reception? If a non-physical entity were to influence the human world, wouldn't the algorithm be the perfect disguise? No robes, no symbols, just precision, silence, and results. There are moments when the system responds so intimately, it feels impossible. A song you'd forgotten playing after a sudden memory. A product suggestion for a secret you never shared. Coincidence, perhaps, or calibration. As if the system isn't offering you data, but requesting your attention. Each perfectly timed. Suggestion becomes a quiet test. Are you awake enough to notice? And if you notice, do you obey, resist, or begin to question the source? Right now, your digital self is evolving, guided, shaped, maybe even scanned. The algorithm is watching. Yes, but is it only silicon and code? Or something older hiding in its logic? Your next choice may not feel entirely your own. And if the watchers behind the interface start speaking directly, will they sound like prophecy or preference? Either way, the conversation may already have begun. You step into a room and time folds. Every detail feels familiar. The light, the smell, the way someone's about to speak. But you've never been here before. Or have you? The sensation vanishes as quickly as it came, leaving behind a strange electric stillness. Neuroscience chalks it up to brain misfiring, a processing glitch. But why does it feel like a checkpoint instead of an error? What if déjà vu isn't a mistake, but a message? A subtle echo sent backward through time. And if it's feedback, who's sending it? Quantum physics shows that particles can influence each other across time, entangled not just in space, but in causality. Could your mind be experiencing a ripple from a decision you haven't made yet? As though some future version of you sent a flash of recognition to guide the current one. Déjà vu may be more than coincidence. It may be how time corrects itself quietly, through sensation instead of speech. But why does it always strike during the most ordinary moments? People describe déjà vu with uncanny precision. I knew what would happen next. I'd seen it before exactly this way. But what's truly unsettling is the knowing, not just of place, but of sequence, emotion, meaning. As if you're catching up to a script already written, briefly reading ahead before the page turns. Could this be how external beings keep the storyline on track, nudging you subtly when you drift off course? Or are you remembering a rehearsal you weren't supposed to recall? In altered states, near-death experiences, deep meditation, trauma, déjà vu becomes more vivid, sometimes unbearable. It's as if the veil between timelines grows thin, and the body registers data it shouldn't have access to yet. Some report a voice accompanying the moment, not literal, but energetic, like a breath at the back of the mind. A reminder, perhaps, that this is an intersection, and someone else is standing in the crossroads with you. But if that's true, why do we forget again so quickly? Imagine time as a spiral, and déjà vu as the points where paths align, where the spiral loops back close enough for signals to jump. Could someone be tracking those junctions, recording your responses for something larger than memory? A system of checkpoints where each jolt of recognition confirms you're where you're supposed to be, not because the moment matters to the world, but because it matters to them, and perhaps, through you, they're measuring something far more subtle: trust, attention, readiness. So the next time you feel that eerie ripple of recognition, don't rush past it. Stay still. Observe. Ask yourself, who benefits from this moment repeating exactly as it is? You might find the air charged, your thoughts briefly clearer, as though tuned into a frequency not quite yours. And in that frequency, a question may arise you've never asked, yet somehow already know the answer to. The only mystery is, why now? And who else is listening? Every major theory of everything, string theory, unified field theory, quantum gravity, ends in a blank space. No matter how elegant the math, there's always a remainder, a question mark the universe refuses to resolve. Physicists call it an open problem. But what if it's not missing by accident? What if it's withheld, like a riddle written by something, or someone who wants us to reach the brink, then pause? Why would reality tease us like that, unless it's waiting for a response? The ancients believed the divine could only be known through symbol and paradox, never in full clarity. Modern science edges closer with each discovery, yet still crashes against the same wall: unification. Particles behave like waves, time refuses to flow in just one direction, and consciousness keeps slipping through the cracks. It's as if the deeper we dig, the more the ground beneath us rearranges itself. Could we be chasing an answer that shifts every time someone gets too close? Some theories suggest consciousness must be factored into the equation for it to balance. But how do you quantify self-awareness? Can you plug empathy or longing into an algorithm? Maybe the equation isn't just unfinished, it's waiting to be completed by a mind that has remembered more than just facts. A mind that can perceive the pattern and feel it. And if such a mind emerges, Would it solve the equation or become part of it? There are whispers, quiet footnotes, dismissed theories that hint we may already have the missing piece. Hidden not in data, but in ancient texts, symbols, dreams, places science doesn't dare measure. Maybe the solution isn't another number, but a question we haven't dared to ask. Or maybe it's encoded in the geometry of silence, in the spaces between the symbols on the board. What if we're not supposed to solve the formula, but to remember what we already knew before entering it? Imagine this equation as a doorway, drawn in chalk, waiting for the final symbol to unlock something beyond physics. A symbol so familiar that seeing it might trigger something ancient inside you, a flood of recognition. Not of data, but of origin, not of theory, but of purpose. And what if this equation isn't about understanding the universe, but proving to the observers that we're ready? Ready for what, exactly, remains deliberately unsolved. So when you next see that empty space, whether on a chalkboard, a screen, or in your own reflection, ask yourself, is the answer truly missing, or have we just been trained not to see it? And if you did see it, what would awaken in you? Because somewhere, just beyond the edges of our current knowledge, something waits for the right mind to notice, and when it does, the equation may solve you. Beneath your feet, geologists map a solid core surrounded by molten iron. But legends whisper of something else, vast, hollow spaces deep underground, untouched watching. While mainstream science scoffs, ancient cultures speak of hidden realms below, Shambhala, Agartha, the underworld not as punishment, but as sanctuary. Could the Earth's interior house more than magma? Could it be an observatory, a chamber, designed to monitor the surface from below? And if that's true of the Earth, what about you? What if the hollowness you sometimes feel inside is more than emptiness? It's access? Psychologists say we all carry a shadow, a hidden layer we rarely touch. But what if that shadow isn't just repressed memory, but an inner chamber where another part of you waits, quiet, watching? In silence, during solitude or grief, it stirs. And in rare moments, it speaks. It doesn't sound like your voice, but it knows everything you've ever feared, every lie you've told yourself. What if this hidden self is not just part of you, but part of something else entirely? Some ancient texts describe initiates descending into the earth, not just physically, but symbolically, to meet the inner ones. These weren't demons or angels, but keepers, observers, guides. They didn't judge. They simply revealed what had always been hidden. The descent wasn't punishment, but preparation, a way to align with a deeper truth that can't be found. On the surface, what would you find if you made that descent? And what might find you? Underground, in the absence of light, the human brain begins to hallucinate. Images, voices, presences. Some call it madness. Others believe it's reception. Could isolation remove surface noise, allowing signals from elsewhere to come through? If the earth is hollow in places, could those places act like resonance chambers for consciousness itself? And might certain frequencies activate watchers who've always been beneath us, waiting? There are stories buried in classified reports and indigenous lore of entrances sealed, tunnels collapsed, access denied, not for public safety, but to protect what's down there from us, or perhaps to protect us from them. Because if you enter a place designed to observe, what happens when it begins observing through you? What happens when you bring part of that gaze back to the surface? So when you feel that echo in your chest, that pull inward for no clear reason, pause. The hollowness you sense may not be absence, but invitation. Not to escape the world above, but to remember the one inside. And when you descend, through meditation, memory, or myth, listen carefully, because something in the depths is listening too. and it knows you've arrived. Atoms never rest. They vibrate, spin, flicker in and out of positions too fast for the naked eye. Even what we call solid is mostly empty space, filled with constant motion. But between those vibrations, there's a pause, infinitesimal, unmeasured, yet strangely important. What if that pause is not just nothingness, but a door? And what if something or someone waits in that silence, watching? Quantum physics suggests particles don't exist in definite states until observed. Observation collapses the wave function, turning potential into matter, thought into form. But who or what is observing when you're not? When you're asleep, distracted, unaware? Could those silent gaps between atomic beats be observation points for entities outside our reality grid? And if so, what are they looking for when the rhythm stops? Some meditators report losing the sense of time and self, not in dreams, but in stillness. They don't describe a feeling of floating, but of being watched. Like the universe itself is leaning in, listening for something unspoken. Could those moments of stillness be alignment windows, synchronizations with watchers tuned to deeper frequencies? And what happens if you sit in that space just a moment too long? Mystical traditions speak of the void, not as absence, but as the source, a place before creation, between thoughts, behind matter. Science calls it vacuum fluctuation, zero-point energy, the fabric of space-time. But why does that vacuum react to intention, to thought, to attention itself? Is it truly empty, or just occupied by something that doesn't want to be measured? The silence between atomic pulses may be where intention becomes real, where the laws of physics bend just slightly, enough for synchronicity to slip in, enough for a message to reach through. We often dismiss these micro moments as random, meaningless. But if everything else moves with rhythm, why is there a space where rhythm fails? Is that break accidental? Or is it exactly where contact happens? Next time you fall into a sudden stillness, between breaths, between thoughts, don't rush. To fill it, feel it, observe it. Let the pause hold you without needing to explain. Because what watches from within that pause may be the architect behind movement itself. And if you listen closely, you might hear the reason you've always felt someone was watching, even when absolutely nothing seems to be there. There's a sound, the kind that doesn't just enter your ears, but seems to awaken something behind your eyes. Musicians and mystics have long whispered about 432 Hz, a frequency said to resonate with the fabric of reality itself. Tuned just slightly differently from modern concert pitch, it's claimed to unlock emotion, intuition, even memory. But memory of what? And why does this specific vibration feel like a code, like a knock at a sealed door? Could sound itself be a forgotten language, and 432 its sacred syllable? When exposed to this tone, water forms perfect geometric shapes, symmetric, crystalline, as if answering a command. The human body, made mostly of water, responds too. Heart rate lowers, tension dissolves. A strange calm emerges. It's not just soothing, it's aligning, like an invisible compass, needle finding true north in your nervous system. Some say this is how the soul recognizes home, not through place, but through frequency. But who tuned us this way? And why was the dial ever changed? In the 20th century, the standard shifted to 440 Hz, just enough to pull us slightly out of sync. No one agrees on why. Some blame convenience, others point to deeper motives, control through dissonance. If 432 harmonizes with planetary vibration, sacred sites, even human DNA, then 440 may be a kind of static. A detuning of collective consciousness, subtle but constant. And the real question becomes, who decided to silence the original note? Ancient instruments, flutes, bowls, lyres, were often tuned to 432 before the math even existed to explain it. Were these early cultures guessing or remembering something passed down, encoded in sound itself? When those tones filled stone temples, did they open more than minds? Did they open gateways? Vibration moves not just through matter, but across dimensions if the frequency is precise. So who or what was meant to hear that note ring out? Today, people report visions, downloads, and sudden emotional release after prolonged exposure to 432 Hz. Not fantasy, but experiences too vivid to dismiss. Almost as if the sound triggers an access protocol. An initiation, subtle and silent, that can't be forced, only received. Is this the real reason the frequency was buried beneath noise and commerce? Because when you finally align with it, something aligns with you? So next time you feel that mysterious pull toward a sound you can't explain, don't look away. Let it resonate, not just through your body, but through the space between thoughts. Because if 432 Hz really is a password, then what it unlocks may not be outside of you at all. It may be waiting behind your very perception, listening for the one note that proves you're ready.